Shalom Aleichem, Buchim Aboyim, B'Shem Hashem. Welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime as well. I want to dedicate the shir for the Atzlacha of Ben Tzion, Ben Dosa, him and his family, and the Refuah Shalem of Nesanel Ben Rivka, who needs a lot of Rachmei Shamayim B'Soch Sha'al Choy Yisrael. This Shabbos is a very special Shabbos. Everybody knows.
It's also my son's yahrzeit.
Oh, I said it's a special Shabbos.
30 years.
The Shamayim Mitzvah Shem Shalom Naliyah.
Amen.
The Shabbos before Yom Kippur, everybody knows, is called Shabbos Shuvah. Shabbos before Pesach, everybody knows, is called Shabbos HaGodol. Shabbos before Shavuos, we once spoke about it, the Kotzki Rebbe coined it. It's called Shabbos Derech Eretz, because if in Pirkei Avos Chazal say Derech Eretz, Kadma la Torah, Derech Eretz comes before Torah, and Torah is given on Shavuos, so the Shabbos before is Shabbos Derech Eretz. But what is the Shabbos right after Shavuos called? This coming Shabbos? This is called Shabbos Sheva Brachos. Because in Vayikra Rabba Parsha Chaf Ois Yud we learn Yom Chasunosoi, pasuk from Shir Hashirim, Ze Har Sinai. So that was a wedding day. Shavuos is a wedding. We are still within the Sheva Brachos, which means normally Sheva Brachos, still within the first 7 days, you still tell your wife how beautiful she is, how smart she is, how great she is, and how much you love her. So we have to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu how much we love the Kala being the Torah. And therefore it could be, I looked for in the point scheme for some kind of a heter to speak 4 or 5 days after Shavuos. I looked all over for heter to speak still about Nase V'Nishma, about conversion, about Emunas Chachamim. I didn't find a clear heter, but I think we have permission during the days of Sheva Brachos to still speak about Inyanim HaTorah, of Chashivus HaTorah, Malas HaTorah. So in Mitzvah Hashem, we're going to speak about that as well. Maybe now it's even more important to speak about it, because you have to strike while the iron is still hot. And before Shavuos and during Shavuos, everybody's excited. We stay up the whole night with the Kala. But now it's really important to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu how much we really endear His Torah. And therefore, let's spend a little time speaking about that. Mitzvah Hashem will also address Parshas Naso and a few other inyanim, as we will see. In Perek Aleph, Pasuk Tes Zayin and Yud Zayin, Nomi says to Rus, are you sure you want to come? You sure it's a good idea? Maybe you should go like your sister-in-law, go back home. And Rus says, can you please stop persuading me from joining you? I really want to join. I'd like to join. Wherever you go, I will. Wherever you go to sleep, I will. Your nation is mine. Your God is mine. Wherever you die, I will. And there I will be buried. Pashut. Literally, that's what the words are saying. But Chazal tell us behind the scenes what really was going on there. In Rus Rabba Parsha Beis Ois Chafei, as well as in Yevamos Mem Zayin Amud Beis, a short version, Chazal tell us really what she was saying. Nomi was telling the soon-to-be convert Rus, you should know. We have 4 capital punishments: Skila, Sreifa, Hereg, and Chenek. And our cemeteries are built differently than yours. In our cemeteries, there are 2 sections. One section is for skila and sreifa, very, very severe. And there's another section in the cemeteries for hereg and chenek. Do you understand that, Rus? And Rus says, yeah. No problem. Basher tamusi amus, wherever you die, I will. V'sham ekaver, I will be buried there. No problem. Ebetzin Nomi, who cares? I think there's even some people here that maybe weren't aware of this, that in a Jewish cemetery, there's 2 sections. A section for skila and sreifa, and for hereg and chenek. They're not buried in the same place. Who cares? She's about to convert. Tell her about Shabbos. Open up Chofetz Chaim and tell her how you can use or you can't use your mouth. Anytime she's going to eat, from now on she has to say a bracha, before and after. Tell her important things. Tell her the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit. Tell her that if she doesn't eat donuts on Hanukkah, she's not Yotzei no matter how many candles she's going to light. Tell her if she doesn't eat Hamikdash on Purim, she has to read the Megillah another 5 times. Tell her the real important things. Yom Kippur, you can't eat 25 hours. Do you know this? No. Do you know that in the cemetery there's 2 sections? Skila and Sreifa, Hereg and Ched. Who cares? You understand that I want to tell you a story that Baruch Hashem didn't happen. But you may want to put your seatbelts on for what I'm about to say. There's a guy who's sitting on Shabbos in Mea Shearim. He's about to eat some rice. He has a bowl of rice. And a very frum fly comes to do the mitzvah of Oneg Shabbos. He also wants to enjoy some rice. So he dives into the rice. And this guy is disgusted. Ugh, I'm going to eat this rice with this fly inside. So he's about to take the rice out, the fly out of the rice. Two kosher Eidim run to him and say, "Oh, don't do that, it's Chilul Shabbos, Chilul Shabbos." What malach is this? Boyer! Boyer, sorting, now not do this. And if you do, we'll take you to Beis Din. Violating Shabbos is skila. The guy says, "I don't care. I'm hungry. Get out of here." He takes the fly out of the rice. What are we going to do to him? We will take him to Beis Din and execute him skila. 1 week after this happened, there's a guy who, now you may want to put your seatbelts on. I'm warning you. There's a guy walking in Bnei Brak. There's a 6-year-old who's pushing, or two brothers in a stroller. You know, in Bnei Brak, when you're a 6-year-old, you probably have 15 siblings who are younger than you. So she's walking with her two brothers in the carriage, and there's another 3 brothers over here on this side, another three of her sisters on the left side. She's walking. It's not a very wide sidewalk, so she's basically blocking the whole way. And a guy is walking behind her and says, excuse me, little girl, can you please move? I want to go a little faster than you. Excuse me. And either she didn't hear him or she ignored him. Whatever. She's 6 years old. What do you want from her? Excuse me, can you please move? This guy takes out a 25-pound hammer. You ever see a 25-pound hammer? And he's about to use this hammer on her head. 2 kosher Eidim run to him and says, "Don't dare! Don't dare! Murder! And if you do, we'll take you to Beis Din. It's capital punishment." He says, "Yeah, I know. But don't you see she's blocking the... I can't move!" And he keeps yelling, excuse me, and she doesn't listen. And they threaten him. They give him a saw. They warn him, "Don't do this." But, he's in a rush. He takes the hammer. And he smashes her head. The 3 brothers here on the right side, 3 sisters on the left side, and the 2 little kids, beautiful, beautiful neshamos. These are 9 beautiful children. In the carriage, they're all... We take him to Beis Din. And the Dayanim said, "You killed 9 Jewish lives! Capital punishment." And he says to the Dayanim, "Dear Dayanim, you got to do what you got to do. You want to execute me? Fine. But do me a favor. Don't bury me with that villain from last week who took out the fly from his rice bowl. Because he got skila for Chilul Shabbos. I only get hereg, sword. So please, different sections in the cemetery." And the Dayanim look at him and said, "What were you thinking? Of course, we wouldn't do such a thing. This guy violated Shabbos. You only killed 9 Jewish children. Beautiful neshamas. Parents are devastated forever. The whole family. The blood is still flowing in the streets of Bnei Brak. But you only killed. Of course you wouldn't dare to bury you in the same cemetery as her. It's this guy from last week. Who are you thinking?" The boy said, "Does this story make any sense to you?" Absolutely not. If somebody comes to you and says, "Listen," puts a gun to your head, "Take the fly out of the rice bowl on Shabbos," what are you supposed to do? Take the fly out of the rice bowl. It's not 3 cardinal sins. Chilul Shabbos. But if somebody comes to you and says, "I want you to use a hammer on the head of this little girl," not 9, only 1. What are you supposed to say? "Chas v'sholom, kill me, I'm not going to do that." More than that. Who loses out from the fact that a guy sits in his own house and he takes out privately, quietly, because he's hungry, a fly out of the rice bowl on Shabbos? What happened? What went wrong? What's so terrible? And 9 children? You severed their future, destroyed the family, many families that they could erect in Klal Yisrael. And yet, that's only hereg. It's much lower level type of a capital punishment than skila for chilul Shabbos. Does that make any sense to you? No! But that's what Nase v'nishma that we said a few days ago means. It means I'm accepting on myself even those things that I don't understand. Who says I have to understand it? This is a Kodesh Baruch Hu's brain, as if. And I'm not supposed to necessarily understand it. The Rishonim have a language, 3 words. Ilu yedativ heyisiv. If I would really understand the Kodesh Baruch Hu, I would be a Kodesh Baruch Hu. I don't run the world. It's not my Torah. It's His. And when He says, this is the punishment for this sin, and this is a punishment for a different one, you must accept it. The Nase v'nishma means I'm not picking and choosing what I feel comfortable with, what I understand, what sits well with me. It's Nase v'nishma, encompassing 613 mitzvahs, whether I understand them or not. I think a few weeks ago in Parashat Shmini, maybe we mentioned, one of the Rishonim, Rabbi Yosef HaMekane, says that a priest asked him once, why is it that we can't eat chazir? And the guy says to him, look, I eat chazir all the time. It's delicious. Fat, juicy piece of meat. All my neighbors do. And we live. We're happy and strong and healthy up to 120. Why does the Kodesh Baruch Hu, your God, go against the chazir? What does He have against the chazir? Why can't you wear shatnez? What's your problem with these things? We do it all the time. It doesn't do anything to us. And Rabbi Yosef HaMekane, one of the Rishonim, he says to him, come with me. He took him back to his house. And Rabbi Yosef HaMekane says to his own wife, Ebetzin, I see you're wearing a scarf on your neck. Take it off. She took it off. You see the cat over there? Take the cat, put it on your lap. She does. Take the scarf that you just took off your neck. Tie the cat's legs. Ezoi isha ksheira, Chazal say, sha'oisa retzon ba'ala. She does whatever her husband asks. Rabbi Yosef HaMekane looks at this priest and says, now do you understand? He says, no. Can you please explain? And he says to him, look, if I came with you back home and I say to my wife, can you fix us some lunch? I have a friend over. Of course she will. It makes sense. But when I tell her, do me a favor, take your scarf off and take a cat and start tying it, and she still does that, then she demonstrates her love to me. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us, don't kill, don't steal, we would accept it. It makes a lot of sense. But when He commands us things that we don't understand, don't eat chazir, why not? Don't wear shatnez, why not? And we say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you command us, and we accept it, then we demonstrate our love to Him. That's the real Nase v'nishma, to accept it no matter what. The Piaseczner Rebbe wrote Esh Kodesh, wrote Choivas HaTalmidim, Hashem Yikom Damo, he was murdered in the Holocaust. He has a sefer called Tzav V'Zeirus, not so known as Esh Kodesh and Choivas HaTalmidim. In Tzav V'Zeirus he writes letters to himself, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's like a diary. And in letter 19, he writes a very, very moving thing. He's writing this when he was 40 years old. It's his birthday. 40 years is a big number. Why? Yemei shnosenu b'hem 70 shana. V'im b'gvuros 80 shana. So 80 is as if the max. So when you reach 40, at the top, by definition, you're starting your decline. So you reach the age of 40, he writes to Kodesh Baruch Hu, I want to give you something. I want to give you something in return. Thank you so much for 40 years that you gave me. What should I give you? Should I try to daven with more kavana? I try to daven with all the kavana that I can muster. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, should I learn a little more? I try to use every free minute that I have to learn your Torah. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to give you something big. What can I give you? You know what, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I would like to convert for you. Well, what can I do? I was born Jewish. It's such a moving letter, but I think the Piaseczner Rebbe was wrong. Why can't we convert? Because we're born Jewish. What does it mean to convert? My Rebbe Osher Weiss Shlita many times says over this mashal. There's a guy who wants to convert. Is in the process a year and a half, very serious guy. You have Beis Din, that is the Beis Din sees that this guy is the real deal and he's ready. So the night before, the great day, he calls him over and says, listen, tomorrow is the big day. Are you willing to accept in yourself 613 mitzvahs? And this guy says, Av Beis Din, I want to be like you. And the Av Beis Din says, that's not what I asked you. I asked you, it's a yes-no question. Are you willing to accept in yourself Tayyag mitzvahs? 613 mitzvahs from the Torah, thousands of mitzvahs derabanan. Are you willing to accept yourself, yes or no? This guy looks at him and says, Av Beis Din, I want to be like you. Av Beis Din is getting upset, he's getting all red. Can you please answer yes or no? Are you willing to accept in yourself 613 mitzvahs? Av Beis Din, I want to be like you. Av Beis Din is furious, he's about to throw him out. Answer me, yes or no? And the guy says, listen, it's kind of uncomfortable to say this, but yesterday I was here. I davened your Mincha Mariv. Between Mincha Mariv there was a break, a few minutes. Very uncomfortable to share this with you, but I did hear you, the Av Beis Din, yesterday between Mincha Mariv, speaking a little Lashon Hara. So Av Beis Din, I want to be like you. You're asking me if I'm willing to accept on myself 613 mitzvahs. Why do I have to accept on myself 613 mitzvahs and you don't? Why can you be Av Beis Din, the chief rabbi, the Rosh Shiva, but you're allowed to pick and choose. You do 613, Mistama you do 612. I want to be like you. Why are we allowed to be Jewish from birth? But we can pick whatever feels good to us, whatever sits well with us, whatever that doesn't bother us too much. But the ger, no, he has to accept 613 mitzvahs. Nase v'nishma. Reenactment of Ma'amad Al Sinai means to accept all Torah mitzvahs b'shleimus in its entirety. So l'chayra, the PSS Rebbe was wrong. We are also allowed to convert for Kodesh Baruch Hu, meaning to re-accept on ourselves, no more picking and choosing. From now, 613 all the time. It's not our Torah, it's a Kodesh Baruch Hu's Torah. And therefore, Nomi says to Ruth, do you know, we have in the cemetery two sections, Skila and Sreifa in one area, and Hereg and Chenek in the other. In other words, you have to accept in yourself even those things that make sense, and those things that don't make sense, as in the story that we just said before. It doesn't make sense. Why did this guy violate Shabbos? It's Skila, the guy who killed 9 little kids. Only Herek, different section. It's not your Torah. It's Naaseh v'nishma, accepting the entire Torah, 613 mitzvahs. Which means fulfilling the Torah, the mitzvahs, is not just the technical aspect of it. Yep, been there, done that. I did exactly what Shulchan Aruch says. Is to accept on ourselves those things we understand. And those things we don't understand. And that not only the ger has to do, we have to do the same. How do we know exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us in those 613 mitzvahs? That is reflected in the words of Chazal, in the words of Chachamim, in the Talmudim, Bavli Yerushalmi, in Divrei Chazal and the Midrashim, in the Shulchan Aruch, and in the Chachamim and Poskim in every generation. And that's where we go ask Das Torah. We go ask the Rabbanim, what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me? What does this mean? What am I supposed to do? Because when you go and ask a Gadol, you're not asking his opinion. You're asking the Torah. The Torah itself, because the Kodesh Baruch Hu gives us representatives in His world. And they are the Gedolim that are here, and they represent Him. What do I mean? Let's play a little game. I'm going to say a word now, an expression. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind, immediately. No hesitation. The first thing that comes to your mind when I say, you're walking in the street and you see a big sign, beware of the dog. What do you think of? The first thing you think about? The dog. It depends. If you're Yerushalmi, they don't get along with dogs, you should know. If you're Yerushalmi, you say to yourself, I'm never walking in this street again. If you're a dog lover, you say, oh, let's see, I want to pet him. Fine. First thing you think of when I say, World Trade Center, the Twin Towers. The first thing that comes to your mind. 9/11. Bloodshed, 3,000 people died. 5-bedroom apartment. First thing. It depends. If you're a guy, a big mortgage. If you're a woman, you think about, does it have a nice view to the ocean? Tank. The first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word tank.
The best. It's the best.
The best?
The highest.
Tank, a tank.
10?
A tank.
Oh, a tank.
A tank. A vehicle used in the war effort. What do you think, Matt?
Not to pick something up if it falls down.
What's that?
Someone told me that, but tanking, if it falls down, leave it down, it will fall again.
That's the first thing that comes to your mind. I think most people say what he said. War, explosions, blood. Yarkon River. You know in Tel Aviv, the Yarkon River? The first thing that comes to your mind.
Pollution. Water.
Pollution. Green water. Bissim Karelitz, Zatzal, went to the doctor. The doctor told him, you must start exercising. So he did. Started walking in Bnei Brak. He's walking with his gabbai, and he sees a sign, beware of the dog. Immediately, the first thing that came to his mind was, oh, you see that you can take the bones off your table on Shabbos in Bnei Brak. And the gabbai says to him, what? So he explains, the halacha is, bones are muktzeh. You have no use for them on Shabbos, it's muktzeh. But if in your town there are animals that would eat them, it's not muktzeh. So when he saw, beware of the dog, he saw Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah Berurah explaining to him that bones on Shabbos are not muktzeh. When they told him Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the first time he heard in his life, there's such a thing called the World Trade Center, 2 gigantic buildings, 104 floors. You know what his first reaction was? Oh wow, that's very interesting. That means it could be that 2 babies are born at the same time. One will have his circumcision 8 days later, and the other 9 days later. And the person who just told him this information said, what do you mean? And he said, look, if, let's say Shkia today is at 6 p.m. and the first floor a baby is born, and it's 6:03 p.m. When is his bris milah going to be? In 9 days from now. He already lost his day. But on the 104th floor, at the same time a baby is born, it's 6:03. But on the 104th floor, there's Shkia another 10 minutes to go, maybe 6:15. So remember, it's still that day. He didn't lose a day. Bris milah is going to be in 8 days. It's the first thing that came to his mind. Reb Chaim Kanievsky's grandson once came to him and says, Saba, get a mazel tov. Why mazel tov? We just bought a new apartment. 5-bedroom apartment. Reb Chaim's first reaction, Oy, it's going to take you so long to do bdikas chametz. When Reb Chaim was young, there was a war in Eretz Yisrael. He's in Chazon Koilel, Bnei Brak. And he's writing, and he's going, and he's going to the shelf and taking another sefer and putting it back, and taking another shelf. And somebody comes to him, Reb Chaim, there's a war out there. There's tanks. You're not afraid. And Reb Chaim says, a tank? The only nafkamina that we have, is it a kli that mekabel tumah or not? It's 40 seah. Is it for metal? It is mechubar lakarka. How do we view it? When Reb Chaim was very young, the stipler, his father, took him once to the Yarkon River to find some maravos before Sukkot. He used to call him Chaime. So the stipler goes to one direction, Reb Chaim goes to the other, and after a few minutes, the stipler yells, Chaime, Chaime, Chaime! He thought something happened. He runs to his father, what happened? He says, look! He saw a Mishnah that we say in Bameh Madlikin, Bameh Madlikin, Masechet Shabbos, because when he goes to the river, he sees Mishnayos. When I go to the river, I'm not sure what I see in the river. Meaning, Gedolei Yisrael, as opposed to me, maybe some of you, that I have blood running in my veins, they don't. They don't. They have Torah running in their veins.
The number 10?
What's that?
Oh, tank.
The tank, Mekabel Tumah or not. They have Torah running in their veins because they eat Torah, they think Torah, they drink Torah, they sleep Torah, they breathe Torah. That's their essence. Which means Naaseh v'nishma is accepting on ourselves the words of Chazal, the word of Gedolim, which is a reflection of the Taryag mitzvahs shebatorah. That's the true Naaseh v'nishma. And that we don't have to limit our acceptance only to Shavuos night or Shavuos day. That we're allowed to. We are actually demanded to do that every single day. The Michtav Meliyahu in Chelek Aleph, page 75, has a little article about Emunas Chachamim. 3 pages, 75, 76, 77. I'm giving you the exact address because it's highly recommended to go and visit that article. It's Givaldik. It's called Emunas Chachamim. I just want to quote how he concludes this essay about Emunas Chachamim. And he writes, Choser hakaras ha'itbatlus le'umas saboseidu, the lack of one's nullifying himself to the Chachamim, zehu shoresh kol chatas utchilas kol churban rachmana litzlan. That is the root cause of all sin. In the beginning of every destruction, God should save us. But he doesn't stop there. And he continues and he says, V'kol ha-zchuyos. What does it mean? All the zchuyos possible. That means a person who's learning Torah 25 hours a day, he gets up 1 hour earlier. That means a person who has Tomchei Shabbos 500 families that he supports. Doesn't make a difference. Kol ha-zchuyos. Lo yishvu le'umas shoresh hakol. Will not match the root of it all, shehu, which is emunas chachamim. It all hinges on emunas chachamim. And that is what Naaseh v'nishma is. Michtav Meliyahu, Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler, Chelek Aleph, page 77. That's how he concludes this essay. Highly recommended to go and visit that essay. It's mamish gewaldig. Michtav Me'eliyahu, Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler.
Strive for truth.
Strive for truth is the English translation of that svarim. It's a very, very good translation and very, very kedai. Parshas Naso. In the Parsha we learn about different jobs of the Kohanim and the Levim. Korbanos are mentioned in the Parsha as well. So we know what the Levim used to do. They used to sing. What tune would they sing? Was it Hasidic song? Sephardi? Yemenite? Maybe Nachman Meuman, Breslev, I don't know. Which tune would they sing when they would bring Korbanos? A big Chiddush from the Ma'o V'Shemesh, he brings from one of the Rishonim, Bris Menucha. The time that a person would bring a Korban, the Kohen would look at him. And the Kohen would see, somehow, I don't know how, if he noticed that this person was not moved to do tshuva, and that is the essence of Korban. It's to move you to a new place, to do tshuva. To think, this Korban, it really should have been me. If he saw that the person was not still awakened to do tshuva, the Kohen would hint to the Levim to sing a specific tune that would cause that person to do tshuva. Mamish unbelievable. Based on that, lichoira, it depends who the person is, and maybe all the possibilities that we brought are correct. If it was a Yemenite, it was a Yemenite tune. If it was a Hasidic, I don't know. Maybe there was a one-size-fits-all type of a tune that would cause everybody to do tshuva. I don't know. It's a tremendous chiddush, and not less of a chiddush in his words, is that it is implied that even in Korban Yachid, there would be Shira, the Levim would sing, and that is a big chiddush as well. Riddle of the week.
Mary, go back to the tune. So who else sang the tune to do tshuva? Miriam also sang when we crossed the Yam Suf.
That's a song of praise to Ribbon Shalom, not to do tshuva. To thank Ribbon Shalom, just like Klal Yisrael, the men did, so Miriam did with the women.
The tunes that we use in Tefillah, I feel like the maybe Maharil has, he went around and he was conveying a different tune for the. Wasn't there some sort of idea that connected to racing with this? Like these are the Masorah tunes that we've had since the time of.
There is one tune that Sefer Iyei Hayam and a few other Sfarim as well bring. I think maybe he is the earliest one. It says that this is the only tune that we still have from Beis Hamikdash that Levim used to sing. It's a tune that we sing in some shuls, Motzei Shabbos. LeDavid Baruch Hashem Tzuri Tehillim Kuf Mem Dalet. That tune, he says, you see that no matter where they sing it, they always use the same tune. Everything else, there's different tunes. He says this, you see, no matter where you go, it's always the same tune because this is a tune that we still have from Beis Hamikdash. So the big chiddush. Other things, I don't know that we still have from Beis Hamikdash.
Rabbi Waxman, for the last 30 years, speaks to the whole. It used to be 100 people, now it's over 2,000 people. Shayash was not big enough. At the end of his speech, he comes up with a new song. A song with a story.
But that's not necessarily from Beis Hamikdash. That's pretty new. How is it possible? You have many mitzvahs. Lo yisaseh means you refrain from doing it. Just, you're passive. A positive one, an essay, you have to get up and do the mitzvah. Is it possible for a person to fulfill a positive mitzvah by being passive? Don't do anything. Oh, you just did a mitzvah. Can it be? Two mitzvahs like that.
When one refrains from an avera, no, we say that it's...
So he didn't commit the lo taseh. What positive mitzvah do you fulfill? When I tell you to go sit in the sukkah, you have to go sit in the sukkah. You have to be actively going, sitting in the sukkah, and then you fulfill the mitzvah. By looking at the sukkah from far and sitting in your house, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah. Positive mitzvah, by definition, is something that you have to do. Put the tefillin on. That means you have to take the tefillin out of the bag, put them on, and then you fulfill the mitzvah. Can it be a positive mitzvah that you are passive when you're fulfilling it? Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. Good. I wasn't thinking about one.
From 9 days of bris milah on the 9th day, every day you get a mitzvah, not doing anything.
Yeah, there's a machlokes when one is circumcised, is he fulfilling a mitzvah? He's already did it when he was 8 days old. Same thing you can just say about tzitzis. I put the tzitzis on in the morning, every single second, but that necessitated something. I had to do something. What mitzvah doesn't require you to do anything? Nothing. You said, oh, you just did a mitzvah. That if you forgot, you did a mitzvah. Here intentionally, I want to do a mitzvah. The only way you can do it is by being passive.
We say the sukkah only every minute we spend in the sukkah.
But you have to enter the sukkah. You have to walk into the sukkah and then you start to fulfill it. Now every single second you're sitting there, you're doing a mitzvah. Just like tzitzis. Just like the bris milah. What's that? What about Birkas Kohanim? The Kohanim have to say. You're thinking, like the second answer that I wanted to bring, according to the Charedim. Charedim has a big chiddush. Sefer HaCharedim is from the time of the Beis Yosef in Tzfas. And he writes, I think in Perek Yud Beis, Ois Yud Ches, that the Israelim who get the bracha are also actively doing the mitzvah. What are they doing? They're doing nothing. They're just standing there and receiving the bracha from the Kohanim. It's not only a bracha for the Kohanim to give, it's a bracha for the Israelim to receive. So they're doing nothing and they're doing a mitzvah eseh. That's one answer. Second answer.
So they have to be there, did something.
No, I came to daven, or like I was learning. Whatever it is, the Kohen starts giving bracha. If I'm there, willing to accept the bracha by doing nothing, I didn't do anything. I'm accepting the bracha, mitzvah esed deoraisa, according to the Charedim. Even in the field, if you're anus and you can't come to shul. Another mitzvah like that, not like that, another mitzvah that you're passive, and yet, positive mitzvah. Has to do with our parsha. Which is two mitzvahs that have to do with our parsha. The Birkas Kohanim is one. And the Nazir is two. The Nazir has a mitzvah to let his hair grow. So by doing nothing and allowing his hair to grow, he's fulfilled a positive mitzvah from the Torah. That is what Minchas Chinuch says, I believe, in mitzvah Shin Ayin Dalet. Since we mentioned the Nazir, the passage is about the Nazir, that he's not allowed to defile himself even to his parents. And since we mentioned in this parsha a father and a mother, this gives us a chance to say something about parents, about honoring parents. Listen to Amoyer Dikamaise. There's a very chashuv Rav in Bnei Brak. His name is Reb David Braverman. And he told the following Maise. He sometimes goes, gateways, Arachim, he speaks. So he sometimes goes to different prisons in Eretz Yisrael, and he gives chizuk to the inmates, he gives shiurim. He went to a certain jail in Eretz Yisrael to give a shiur. This prison has very, very heavy-duty, serious, hardcore murderers. But can't get worse than that. Intentional murders. He goes there to give the shiur, and he passes by certain cells, and he suddenly saw this guy, looking about 17 years old, tzitzis hanging out, chassidish payas, and he's approaching one of the most famous murderers in Eretz Yisrael. And the murderer comes close to him, and he hugs him. But this young Bachur's arms are hanging at his sides and he's not doing anything. Looked very strange, but you should know, in jail you don't ask questions. So he did pause for a second to look, but you don't ask questions in the jail. So he continues to walk, and he goes to that room where he gives the class. He gave the class. And when he finished, he goes back outside, and he has a car waiting for him. He goes into the car, he starts driving, and they passed by the bus stop, and he saw this young bachur, the 17-year-old, staying there waiting for the bus. So he says to the driver, can you stop for a second? He opens the window and says, where are you going? And the Hasidic boy says, I'm going to Bnei Brak. He says, oh, we're also going to Bnei Brak. Would you like to join us? He says, sure. That's so nice, thank you so much. He goes into the car. They start talking, very friendly. And at one point, this 17-year-old says to him, I noticed that when you were passing by before, you saw me and you paused for a second, right? He says, yes. So he asks him, is it because you saw this older gentleman hugging me and my arms were just at my sides? He says, yes. He said, but they don't want to ask you anything. He says, let me tell you. This murder, the most famous murder in Eretz Yisrael, happens to be my father. And Rabbi Braverman says, I was shocked. How is it possible that this murderer has this kid? And the kid explains to him, I grew up in a family of crime. Both my grandparents are sitting in jail. My mother is sitting in Tirza prison. Tirza prison is a prison for women in Eretz Yisrael. My father is sitting here in this jail. He has 2 life sentences. He stabbed 2 people. He attempted to murder 2 more, but Baruch Hashem, he wasn't successful. They only rushed to the ICU. They're still in the hospital. So he says, when I was 4 years old, my mother was taken to jail. When I was 7, my father was taken. Social services handed me over to a Hasidic family in Bnei Brak and have a lot of children. They sent me to Cheder. I started learning Torah, Gemara, and Yiddish, Yeshiva Ktana, and now, Baruch Hashem, I'm in Shiur Aleph in Yeshiva, in a Hasidic Yeshiva. And about a month ago, I started thinking, what about Kibbud Av? What about Kibbud Av? I didn't see my father in 10 years. I didn't see my mother in 13 years. Am I responsible and obligated in Kibbud Av? So he says to him, I went to Reb Mendel Shafran. Reb Mendel Shafran is a very big posek in Bnei Brak. And I asked him, am I chayav in Kibbud Av? And Rabbi Shafran says, of course. So last week I came for the first time after 10 years to visit my father. And my father was shocked. I am his only son. And he sees his son with tzitzis hanging out, with payas. So my father tried to shake my hand, and I sort of somehow shook his hand. I was disgusted by touching my father. And today, this is the second time that I'm meeting him, my father came over and tried to hug me. I couldn't. I'm disgusted with my father. Disgusted. That hand that he wants to put on me is a hand that stabbed and murdered 2 Jewish people. How can I hug him? But now I'm thinking, and I want to ask you, Rabbi, when I come here in order to honor my father, but I don't, and I refrain, I keep my arms to my side, maybe it's the opposite of Kibbud Av. So maybe I'm not allowed to come here anymore. There's one thing to honor your father, but the Torah also says something else. Aru, cursed, is the person who disgraces his father, is mevazeh him. My mother is sitting in jail, very similar story, and it's the same question. Am I allowed, should I go and visit my mother, whom I... Rabbi Braverman said, this is not a shaila for me. This is a shaila we have to ask, Godol B'Yisrael. Come, I'll take you to Reb Shteiman. They went to Bnei Brak, and they went into Reb Shteiman Zatzal. Rabbi Braverman explains the whole Maaseh. Before we hear the answer of Reb Shteiman, does a person have to honor parents who are Reshaim, wicked parents? Do you have to honor them?
Yes.
Yes?
We say that even if it stands up for a Russia, you know, it says it makes about a kum.
Even for a goy.
Right. So if
Just Hidu. Why? Because he is already old. He saw Kodesh Baruch Hu in so many junctions in his life.
the culture came, you pay.
But that's just a Hidu. You have to honor, mamish honor, with all the definition of the mitzvah. As Shulchan Aruch details in Yoredei Reish Mem, a father who's a rasha, the murderer. You have to honor him? You're saying machloikis. It's an easy way out. Machloikis.
But that everybody agrees you're not allowed to be mevazim.
That's for sure. You're not allowed to disgrace your father. It's it's a curse. That's nothing to do with it. I'm saying about the positive. To honor him.
He took his father's body out of the grave.
Yeah. And Chachamim praised him for doing so. Chachamim praised him for dragging his father's bones. That was a unique situation. He wanted to leman yu ve'irau for Klal Yisrael.
It's one of the reasons we honor, because they brought you into this world. So therefore you have a kakasha that you're here. So even if they don't really deserve it, you have something to forever be indebted.
There is a machloikes, Rambam and two reflected in Shulchan Aruch. Reish Mem in Yoredei Seif Yudches. The Shulchan Aruch holds like the Rambam that one must honor even wicked parents. The Rema says, V'yesh omrim, and some say you don't have to. Like the Tur says you don't have to. Even according to the opinions that you have to, you don't have to pursue a very intense relationship. And if it brings you down in spirituality, you should stay away. You can pick up the phone, Erev Shabbos, and wish him good Shabbos. But you don't have to come visit him every single day. But when you are with them, according to the opinion that you're chayav in kibudav, so your mamish have to honor them. The Tur says no. The Pri Megadim, in his Akdamat Yoredei, has a suffix. What did the Rema mean? The Rema says, V'yesh omrim, and some say, you don't have to honor them. But the Rema doesn't say, V'chen ikar, v'chen la'alacha, v'chen aminag. He doesn't say that. He just says, Yesh omrim. And the Pri Megadim is mistapek. Maybe the Rema actually holds like the Shulchan Aruch. But because of the honor of those opinion, the opinion of the two that says that you do have to, the Rema felt it's necessary to bring it. But Lemaisa he holds like him. And there's many who hold like the Pri Megadim that potentially the Rema holds like the Shulchan Aruch that you have to honor wicked parents. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, Chayei Adam, and many others. The Aruch HaShulchan there in Yoredei Reish Mem Seif Kotan Lamed Tes says no, he paskins like the two because it's the opinion of the majority of poskim that one does not have to honor wicked parents. The Yabia Omer Havadia, who would go according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to the Rambam, he says, but if it's parents who are against Yiddishkeit and who are against the kid who became a Baal Tshuva, then no obligation to honor them. There's a Medrash, unbelievable Medrash Agada, when the Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Avram Avinu, Lech Lecha. Avram Avinu says, really? I should leave? I should go to Eretz Yisrael? What about my old father? You know what people are going to say? Look at this man. He left his old father, Terach, in Haran. What's wrong with him? So Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Lech Lecha. Why double language? Lech. I want you to start walking. Lecha ani poiter mikibud av. I'm exempting you from Kibud Av. Don't worry. You're right. Technically speaking, you're wrong. You shouldn't do this, even though your father is wicked. He's a Rasha, it's Terach. But you, I'm exempting from Kibud Av, but I'm not exempting others. It's a big Chiddush. You don't know when he did tshuva. At this time, when he's 75 and he starts walking, he still didn't do tshuva. At the end of his days, Terach did tshuva. We go back to our story. Reb Shteiman, here's the question. He says to the Braverman, is the boy here with you? He says, yeah, this is the kid. Reb Shteiman shakes his hand, starts caressing his hand, and he looks at this boy's face and he says to him, I envy you. Rabbi, you envy me? I'm jealous of you. My parents are murderers. Why do you envy me? My grandparents are sitting in jail. Mishpacha letiferes, to the glory of the house of Israel. Rabbi Shteiman says, because you have parents that you can honor, I don't. And the boy says, but Rabbi, my parents are murderers. I despise my mother. I'm disgusted with my father. How can I honor them? And Reb Steinman said to him, an unbelievable yisoid in Yiddishkeit. An unbelievable yisoid in what being mechabed a parent is. He explained to him, you should know there's two things. There's to appreciate a person, leha'arich, to appreciate, and there's kibud, to honor, to respect. Appreciate is based on one's deeds, on his actions. Even inanimate objects have a value. A murderer has zero value. No appreciation there. But there's a thing called kibud, to be mechabed the person, to honor him. And that you must do to any person in the world because he has an image of God. And what HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks you to do is to have your image of God, which is in you, honor and respect the image of God that's in your father. And that's true to any person you meet. What you have to do is let the inner part in you show respect to the inner part in your father. And he said, I'll prove it to you. Parshas Kiseitzer, we learned as a mitzvah. Those who died in capital punishments, Arba Misos Beis Din, are hung. Rashi brings it from the Gemara over there. But you can't leave him hanging overnight. You can't. Why? It's the image of God that's hanging. What do you mean? It's the guy you killed. He did all the averos, the worst averos possible. 3 averos chamoros. We had to execute him, right? But he still has the image of God. You see, no matter how severe a person's transgressions are, he still has an image of God, and you must respect him. And Reb Steinman told him, you should know. If your inner part will respect the inner part, the image of God in your father, you see, with time, your father will change. It took this boy 3 weeks to internalize Reb Steinman's message, and after 3 weeks, he kept in touch with Reb Braverman. He went back to jail. And he told him, this time when my father came over to hug me, I gave him a big hug. And I allowed my image of God inside me to embrace my father's. My father started crying for 10 minutes. And he says, Moshe, I feel remorse. I want to fix what I did, but I don't know how. This boy consulted with a few Rabbanim, and they guided him how and what to teach his father. His father became a Baal Tshuva, and he is still in jail, but he gives shiurim in the jail. Just mamish pirei ploi. Since we're talking about parents, there's all kinds of afflictions in this world. One can lose his job, one can lose a relative, so many different things. Rabbi said, what is the worst thing a person can experience? The worst possible thing one can experience in life. What are you saying? The worst. What tops the list? Who says it's the worst thing? It's terrible. The worst thing one can experience in his life. Yaakov Avinu is meeting Yosef for the very first time after how many years? 22 years he didn't see him. What's the first thing that he says to him? Vayomer Yisrael el Yosef, Amusa hapam, now I can die after I saw you. Why do you want to die? Why do you feel like you want to die? You should say, now you gave me life, now I can continue to live. Amusa hapam, now I can die. Says, Dashla HaKodosh. Listen to a language of the Shla. The Shla says, it's appropriate for a person to give money for his kids to get married, for a chashuv, a shidduch, yichus, give a lot of money, but I have seen some fathers, that's what the Shla Kodesh says, that when they have a lot of money, when they become old, they give each one of their kids who's married a lot of money. And they leave for themselves a small amount, whatever they calculate is going to be enough for them to carry them over to the end of their life. Says the Shla HaKodesh, this is a shtus gadol, very foolish. Because who knows what's going to happen? Maybe the father is going to lose everything that he left for himself, and he's going to have to be sustained by his children. And the Shla HaKodesh, if that's going to happen, it's something which is against nature. And those kids who will help the father, who will keep them at home and sustain the father, it's going to be a very heavy burden on them, even though the father is the one who gave them all that wealth. They already forgot all about it. And because of that, the kids will come to terrible, terrible sins. Therefore, says the Shlach Kodesh, any wise person who can look into the future and see, who can see what can transpire, should make sure to give money to make the shidduch, but not to give all your wealth. Listen to the language of the Shlach. Ki ein ra ba'olam kara hazo. There is nothing worse, nothing in this world worse than av or im, a father or a mother, that have to be sustained by their parents, by their kids. Rav amar kamaves. This is similar to death. Language of the Shlach Kodesh. Continues the Shlach Kodesh and says, and I heard b'derech halatza, jokingly, but this is the Shlach Kodesh saying this, so it has a lot of value. Why is it that Yaakov Avinu says to Yosef, oh, now I can die? He will say to him, oi, now I'm going to be sustained by you. This is to me like dying. Amusa hapam, because now I realize I'm coming to Mitzrayim and you're going to be the one supporting me. This is to me like dying. Mamish unbelievable. Says the Shlach Kodesh. A father can sustain 10 kids. Besimcha, be'ava. And 10 kids can support even one father. Therefore, the Shlach Kodesh says, let no father do this to himself. If it happens, whatever reason, Kodesh Baruch Hu udim, it's necessary, fine. Then, daven to Kodesh Baruch Hu, daya letzara bishasa. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's what the Shlach Kodesh says. Harachaman yatzil. But don't cause this to yourself. The Binyan David in Parshas Vayigash, he says, Yosef was aware of this. Yaakov just told him, to me it's like dying, that I have to be supported by you. And therefore the Pasuk says that when Yosef sustained his father and his brothers, Yosef sustained his father and his brothers, lechem lefi hataf. According to the young children, we normally understand according to the amount of people that they have. No. Says the Binyan David, he didn't want his father to feel terrible. So he didn't sustain him like a son who supports his father and makes his father know that, look what I'm doing for you. No, he sustained them like a father treating and supporting his sons, in others to avoid embarrassment from his father. There's a sefer called Makel Yaakov. Akdama to Maseches Makois, he brings an unbelievable ma'aseh about the Gaon Mivilna. The Gaon Mivilna's mother lived with him for 10 years. She was an almana. He supported her for 10 years. One day, the Gaon Mivilna goes into his mother's room to check how she's doing, and she's crying and crying and crying. So the Gaon Mivilna says, Mommy, are you okay? She says, yeah. You feel okay? Yeah, why are you crying? Am I treating you with enough respect? Maybe I'm not doing a good job. She says, you're amazing. Maybe my wife, she's not treating you with the proper respect. Your wife is unbelievable. She treats me better than a daughter. She's so dedicated to me. So, Mommy, why are you crying? She says, look, I'm not young. And I realize I'm not staying here for a very long time, and I'm afraid. Judgment day, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm afraid of the judgment. And the Gaon Mivilna says to his mother, when you go up there, you say to them, I was sustained by my son for 10 years, and with that, all your sins will be erased. Not to be believed. He didn't say, tell them that you were a widow. Tell them all the yisum that you had in your life. No. Just tell him I was supported by my son for 10 years. All your sins will be erased. The Gemara in Kiddushin Memei Amud Beis says that a person who sends his father as his own shaliach is called chatzuf. He's brazened. Chutzpahdik. The Ben Ishchai in Torah Lishma Siman Reish Samech Ches says this is true not only if you send your father out to throw out the garbage. Even for a dvar mitzvah. Daddy, can you do bdikas chametz for me today? Daddy, can you separate tumas and maisos? How does he prove it from this Gemara? Because this Gemara is talking about a person who sends his father to be his shaliach, to find a wife, to be mekadesh his wife. This is dvar mitzvah. So even for divrei mitzvah, one should not send his father. He is called chatzuf by Chazal. In Sefer Derech Sicha, Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal says, he was asked over there, you know that your father is going to send mishloach manos to somebody, and you also need to send mishloach manos to the same individual. can you say to your father, listen, anyways, you're going there, do me a favor, take this little basket. It's not heavy at all. Can you take it and give it to him? Because I also need to give him Mishloach Manos. Says Reb Chaim, no. What you can say to your father is, by the way, I also need to give Mishloach Manos to this individual. If your father says, oh, I'll take it, then you're okay with it. Just like the Gemara says about the Kiddushin. But Reb Chaim Kanievsky over there says a ma'aseh about himself. He wasn't feeling well one day when he was young. He was about to put out his Sefer, Hasam Orchoisav. Hasam Orchoisav is a Sefer that he wrote on Orchos Chaim of the Rosh. Orchos Chaim is a short Sefer of the Rosh, Sefer Musa, and Reb Chaim opens it up with all kinds of sources to everything that the Rosh says. He brings the source from Chazal. The Sefer was ready, but he couldn't go to the printer because he wasn't feeling well. His father came to visit him that day, Stipler. And the Stipler says to Reb Chaim, by the way, I'm going now to the printer to give my Kehilos Yaakov. My Sefer was about to be printed. So Reb Chaim says, oh, I also have a Sefer to give to print. So the Stipler says to him, so give it to me, I'll take it. He offered to Reb Chaim to take his Sefer. Reb Chaim says, Shkoyach. And he gave it to him. This Sefer took a few years to be printed. Not a big Sefer. The Stipler Sefer came out shortly after. So a few years later, when finally the Sefer came out, Reb Chaim came over to his father to give him the first copy. And he asked, Daddy, why do you think this happened? This is so strange. Your Sefer came out in a few months. Mine took a few years. You handed it in the same time. The Stipler says, well, what do you expect? You sent your father as a shaliach. But Reb Chaim says, but you offered. You told me, give me the Sefer, I'll take it. He says, you're right. But you sent your father as a shaliach. And you're expecting to have siyata dishmaya when you're sending your father as a shaliach? Rabbi Nissim Karelitz Zatzal pointed out, and this is something so shayach to us. Kids sitting at home. Doesn't make a difference the age of the kid. It can be a 40-year-old and 60-year-old as well. His father's sitting at the table. Daddy, can you pass the salt, please? Can you hand me there's orange juice over there. Could you just pass it over? Tell your mother, can you please give me that cup? Pass that dish. Who's your father? Father? Your mother? Your servants? They're working for you? It's a problem with kibudav. If the mother serves, it's no problem. She chooses to serve you. But when you ask her to do certain things for you, you basically are saying, you are my servants, you are my worker. You're a waiter here. Even though she is doing it with simcha in your heart, but why are you asking your mother to do things for you? Get up and take it yourself. Are your legs and your arms are not working? This Rabbi Nissim Karelitz is not his own chiddush. Sefer Chasidim. Rabbi Yehuda Chosid, listen to the language of Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. Simen Kuf Nun Beis, Rabbi Yehuda Chosid says, Retzoinu shel Adam hu kevoido. One's will is his honor. Ve'afilu lekibud aveim, and even for honoring one parents. In other words, she'im lochen, if it wasn't like that, afilu tzadik gamu, even a complete righteous individual, lo yuchal lehinatzel min ha'aveh, wouldn't be able to escape this sin. Ketzad, what am I talking about? Says Sefer Chasidim, Rabbi Yehuda Chosid. Avi ve'imo yoshitu lo hakos o yimzegu. Your father gives you the glass, or he pours a beverage to your cup, or other things that a person almost can't avoid. You transgress them. And therefore, if your father, your mother are moichel on their honor, no problem. And therefore, he suggests every parent should be moichel to their kids, even without their knowing, in order for the kids not to be punished. In other words, if the parents are not moichel, the kids will be punished for this. And this is without the kid asking for a favor. This is the parent doing it, serving the kid. How much more so when the kid is asking, can you do this and this for me? Get up, do it yourself.
How should he be moichel? The parents to say it.
He doesn't have to be next to them. He says, I'm moichel to my parents, my kids, no matter what.
You should say it.
And some suggest you should do it once a year.
You should say it.
Say it to yourself. I'm moichel to my kids, no matter what they're going to do to me.
If he doesn't say anything, if I do him a favor, so obviously I chose myself to be.
Maybe not. You're embarrassed. Some guests on the table. Daddy, can you pass me? Sure. But you want to look like a person? No, I don't want to give it to you. So you give it to. You're not moichel. How come he's asking me to do this? He knows it's heavy. He knows. Why am I working for my son? If you're moichel really, great. You should say it. Menoya Sabar, Sefer Kadmon. He writes, one who honors his parents, Zoiche veroe esbanav gedoyle hador. One who honors his parents, he will merit to see his children gedoyle hador. What's the connection? I think perhaps the Chayei Adam writes, honoring one's parents is b'machshava, b'maise, uvedibur. Maise we understand. Dibur we also understand. How you address your father. What's machshava? You have to honor your parents with machshava. What does that mean? Says the Chayei Adam, one has to honor his parents in his machshava, that he should view them as if they are, I'm quoting you, Gedolim v'nichbedei eretz. You have to view your parents as anashim gedolim, great individuals, even though in the eyes of other people they are not considered chashuv at all. The Charedim writes the same thing. According to that, we can say, if one has to honor his parents and view them as gedolim, mimele midah keneged midah, measure for measure, he will merit to have his kids gedoilei eretz. We should point out that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says about this Chayei Adam that it's not la'alacha. It can't be that one has to view his parents as gedoilei olam when they're not. Not every parent is gadol ador. What the Chayei Adam meant, says Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, is just to make us know how important and severe this mitzvah is, but not lemaise that you should view your own parent as a gadol ador if he is not. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz explained this Chayei Adam. Every person has a maila. Just like a parent always sees a certain maila in his son. Maybe his son is not the greatest son in the world, but you always look and focus on that good virtue that your son has. You should do the same to your parents and find that great maila that they have and focus on that. And that, look at them as wow, they're so great in this. Rabbi Sim Karelitz Zatzal explains, a person who saved you from death. You're drowning and he saved you. Doesn't make a difference who that person is. From now on, you look at him as, wow, this is a great person. That's what your parents did to you. They raised you. They saved you. They are the ones that got up in the middle of the night and fed you. You should view them as people who saved your life. They're gedolim, at least in that respect. What's the proof that a person who honors his parents merits to see his children gedolim hador? The Chazon Ish was a very shy individual. He once came to a yeshiva to test the little kids. He asked them all kinds of shaylas. And at the end, one of the little kids got up and said, Rabbi, can I ask you a question? Yeah. How do you grow up to become a Chazon Ish? He's asking the Chazon Ish, how did you become so great? The Chazon Ish was very embarrassed, became all red, didn't speak for two minutes. And then he said, Kibud Avim. The Chazon Ish used to go every single day to visit his old mother. For half an hour. He sat and schmoozed with her. Not divrei Torah. They were in Nebak. So they used to discuss things from the old town, Kosovo, where he comes from. What's the nias? What's the news in Kosovo? What happened there? Well, you remember this? Half an hour. The Chazon Ish who doesn't have time, who needs to lead Klal Yisrael, who needs to write his chidushim, he found half an hour to sit and schmooze with his mother. Reb Chaim Kanievsky says that one day he was walking with the Chazon Ish in Bnei Brak, and somebody approached him, and he came over to the Chazon Ish and says, you know, I just came from your mother. And she was wondering, how come Reb Avraham Yeshayahu, that was his name, didn't come to visit her today? Chazon Ish heard this and started running like crazy in the streets of Bnei Brak. He was already old, and he was weak, and he was sick. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, I wasn't able to catch up with him. You be mechabed your mother, mechabed your father, can become a Chazon Ish. If in fact it's true, like the Shlach HaKodesh says, and it's so bad, the worst thing is like dying, to be supported by one's kids, why don't we down for it? Because God will make sure I don't get chas v'sholom, I don't want to be supported by my kids at one point in my life. Chas v'sholom, why don't we down for this? That doesn't mean that I won't be, that just, don't forsake me, that no one will support me. But I don't want to be supported by my kids, says the Shlach HaKodesh. It's the worst thing in the world. Comes Reb Aryeh Levin Zatzal and says, we daven for it all the time. Every time you say benching, Birkas Hamazon, you daven for it. Al tatzrichenu HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo lidei matnas basar v'adam. Why don't you say matnas adam? You should really say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't want to be supported by anybody. Matnas adam, but you make it longer. Matnas basar v'adam. What's basar v'adam? Who is our own flesh? Our children. Don't want to be supported and get gifts from my kids. And therefore it comes out that we daven for it every single day. Mitzvah Hashem. We should be zoichet to honor our parents. That our kids should honor us, and in fact they will become Gedoyle v'nichbedei eretz. Mitzvah Hashem. אחינו כל בית ישראל הנשואים בצער ובשיב יום תימן בים ובין ביבש המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצער ולבך ומאפילו לא ירא משיעבוד לגאולה אשתו בעגולו ובזמן קורי ואינו ימר אמן